In this edition of GSN In Conversation, we talk with Oscar Mira, Napoli's FC owner and Minister of Home Affairs and Enterprises. So yeah, thank you, Oscar, for coming on here. We really appreciate having big time names and owners like yourself, coming on here and doing this. I would like to get started by if you could just tell the viewers kind of who you are, kind of your background, and how you got into being a owner of a professional football team in Belize.
So my name is Oscar Mira. I had a career in the military. That was my first career. And I got involved in football from the time I was in the military. Has always been involved in football. I always loved the game. It's a beautiful game.
Yep.
And I had the opportunity of owning a local team at that time, where we give opportunities to young players from the University of Belize and other players from around Belmopan. And that's how I started with football. It's a beautiful game. It's a game
Yeah.
that gives opportunities. And when I left the military, I got into other things like politics. An elected area representative for the city of Belmopan,
Oh wow.
and I am now the Minister of Home Affairs and Enterprise here in Belize.
Really? Wow.
Um, I I had a team in the first division, Napoles FC, in first division. We won in Belmopan, so we won a few tournaments in Belmopan, and we decided it was time to move up. It was time to give the guys an opportunity to show their talents at the semi-pro level, and that's what we did. We went through all our applications and all the paperwork that it takes to get into the semi-professional league here, or the Premier League of Belize. And now here we are, the youngest team in the Belize Premier League, Napoles FC.
And this has been what now a year that Napoli's FC has been in the Premier League.
So this is the first year. This is the closing. So this is the closing tournament.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, first year.
So how was the transition for not only owners and staff, but also the players? I mean, did the roster pretty much stay the same when you went through all those steps to become a Premier League team and transition? Did the roster kind of stay the same, or did you kind of revamp the roster and kind of make a lot of moves?
It wasn't an easy transition because it's a different league. It's a different mindset for our players. But we took the core of Napolis First Division team. So the core of that team moved up to the semi-pro league,
Yeah.
and it hasn't been that easy because we didn't have enough time to really look at other players, so we had to complement our core of players with other players who had the experience, and that's where we have some experienced players like our captain Anderson,
Oh yeah.
who has been there before. We have a few others who have also been there before, but the core of Napolis FC Premier League team was the one that came from first division.
Great. So you were able to keep some of that chemistry and keep kind of the core team. That's awesome, and I think that you're doing very well considering that and that you're this young of a team, if you will, in the Premier League of Belize. And I think obviously we've interviewed Quest Anderson. I think he's a great leader and captain for the team. And I'm sure. Have you looked at? I mean, now that you're kind of getting more of the foundation. You went through, the opening season and now the closing season. Excuse me. Do you think now you're going to be looking more internationally and bringing players in, or you can focus more on the local talent? Because I know owners have different maybe strategies that they use. Some will focus on local, some will go international.
I think we're going to do some of both. So our aim is to make sure that we reach the playoffs. That is our aim.
Yeah.
However, we're also looking at one day being the champions of the Premier League of Belize, and that can be done, with the help of some international players. So we are looking at international players. We do have two Colombians playing with us at the moment. That's all our international players. We look at the talented young players that we have. We also
Mhm.
want to make sure that we are a team that develop our young players, that develop the talent that we have locally. But in order for us to compete where we want to go, which is in CONCACAF, we
Yeah.
have to bring and complement with some international players. And we will be looking at that. But we want to make sure that the core of our players are local, that the
Yeah.
core of Napoles FC are local players.
Great. And, I think that, obviously you're well on your way to reaching, some of them goals. And, I think a balance is important from what I've talked, now that, I've talked to many, owners now and different captains and people that have a lot of experience, such as yourself now. I think that is the best way for the league to grow and the teams to grow is to have mix and balance of that. Um, and so, my next question would be because you're playing, Belmont and then you have Belmont FC, that's your rival, right? I think that might be the greatest rivalry already in the Premier League of Belize, to have that inner city rivalry. So, how is that, for the players leading up to games when you are playing Belmont FC? Do they play with more intensity? Are they more motivated? Is that a real rivalry?
I think it is. I think it's starting to be a real rivalry here in Belmopan. I think that our players know the magnitude of making sure that we are the Belmopan team. That's our aim. We want to make sure that whenever they say Belmopan, that it's Napoles FC. So our players know that we have to play harder. They know that we have to ensure that in those games, especially the games with against Belmopan FC, that we can bring out all the talent that we have, that we play harder than we usually do. Um, in this coming season, or at the end of this closing season, we are looking at some new players. We are looking at strengthening our team. We want to be competitive. We don't want to just be
Yeah.
participating in this tournament, and so therefore, our staff is looking out. They have already contacted many players that we believe can complement what we have. And
Yeah.
I am sure that in the near future, we'll be very competitive, and that the aims that we have in making sure that we reach our playoffs, that one day we'll be the champions here in Belize, we can realize that.
And I think you certainly have the right vision for, and I think you're already competitive, and you're just getting started, right? So, I know I talked to, I believe it was your brother, Brian, and he's the manager of the team, correct? Like of the business side, or
Yes, he is the manager of the team, as the owner, and as being in government, I do have a lot of work to do. So,
yeah,
it's a little bit um, a lot of things are going on, and as a manager, he gets to be more involved with the team, with the day-to-day running of the team.
yeah.
And as the owner, I try to set the policies in place of where we want to go, and I let them achieve it. I don't really get involved that much with the day-to-day running of the team.
Just having to, yeah, delegate those roles and things like that. And I appreciate, knowing how, how busy you are with government and the team and everything. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, once again. So my next thing would be like, do you have a lot of family involved with this team? Has this kind of become like where maybe your friends and relatives and family, you've kind of built this like community around the team and really made it like local, or is it just you've delegated that task to him and that's kind of it?
No, I think that Napolis FC is family. We consider ourselves as family. We have had a number of seasons. Most of the guys have had a number of seasons together, and we consider ourselves a family. At the same time, I have my siblings who work with me. So, Brian is one of my brothers who is a manager. I also have another brother, his Cyrus, who also deals with the day-to-day uh, management of the team. I also have, a host of nephews, and it's become a
Yeah.
family thing. Everyone wanted to make sure that we are successful. And whenever we have games, everyone comes together to ensure that we get everything that the team needs, and it has indeed become a family oriented. But in Napolis FC, we consider all ourselves family. We treat each other as family, and that's the way that I want this team to be.
Yeah.
We are more than just teammates. We are family.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do business, and great way to do it. And I think that's a unique perspective or way you do the team because a lot of the new owners I've found in the Premier League of Belize, are from America or from European countries, maybe, and they've brought investment groups and they, not necessarily they don't have the ties in Belize and they're not from Belize, and they haven't really been here for years and years, and so when they're coming in here and trying to find local talent, and obviously they're bringing talent internationally, but do you think that gives you an advantage when you're going to like maybe like recruit local talent or find local talent? Do you think you have the advantage because you're actually here and you're actually with the community for a long time?
It does give us an advantage when we're looking at the local talents. Our fan base and our families, they want to go and see their relatives playing. They want to see their friends playing. So it does gives us an advantage with our fan base. They want to see our neighbors. They want to see guys from the community, on that
Yeah.
pitch. So therefore, we try as much as possible to look at the local talent first, and then complement it with the experience and the talent from outside. We do not want to build our team based on outside talent, based on
Mhm.
outside players. We want to make sure that if we bring anyone from outside, that it's going to complement what we already have. And that's the way we are planning to build a team. We are very young in this league, but
Yeah.
we have very big plans, and we have big dreams,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that one day those dreams are realized.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna accomplish those personally. I think you've got the right mindset and doing it the right way, of course. And what do you think the league's going to be like in 5 years? I try to ask that question just to see, how do you think it's going to grow? How do you think, international talent coming in and maybe Belize national players going outside of the Premier League Belize? How do you think it's going to be in the next 5 years?
No, I really believe that that is the direction that we need to take our league. Um, for us here in Napoles FC, we also want to showcase our young talent. We also want to showcase our talent so that other teams or other international teams can look at our players and say, I want to, have a contract with one of your players. That is the aim. We want to make sure that we can export what we have. At the end of the day, you can only do that if you're champions. You can only do that if you play CONCACAF, and you can only do that if you're out there, showcasing what you have. As a team, in the first division, we were able to go out and play internationally. I wanted to make sure that my team had the opportunity of playing outside of Belize. So once while I was at first division, we had a tournament in Colombia, which I took the guys and gave him that experience.
Yeah,
Coming from Colombia was a very great experience for them to see the level of amateur football in other countries. We also went to Mexico, to Monterrey, to play at another tournament at the amateur level. Give them that experience, give the guys that, um, to see how other
yeah.
countries play and the seriousness that they take the game. So I think that was very good for them. It was an exposure that not many amateur teams in Belize have, but I managed to do that. With the help and the assistance of many others. And now that we moved up to the Premier League of Belize, they have that experience, they have that exposure, and they know that every game is a game that they need to put their 100%, because you never know who is looking, you never
Yeah.
know who is out there looking at the players. And I always tell the players, give your 100%, give 110%. We
Yeah.
would never know who is out there looking at you. So I think that in the future, the league must look at making things different, making it a business, making it um, where we can expose our talent, where we can expose
Mm.
all of our young talent, so that those European leagues and those teams up in Europe and in the US and other parts of the world can look at Belize and say, you know what, we can get good talent, good footballers here. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's the aim, that we expose them, and one day we can export one or two players.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and obviously great for the players. And I've spoke with some of like the U20 national team players, and they value like the experience they get playing some of these other countries, and like you provided for your amateur team. I think they really do appreciate that, and it helps them grow as a player, as a young player. And that's what GSN is trying to do, is to cover the league as it grows and help, and that's why we bring on some of the younger players and things too, so we can try to help them, grow their profile internationally and the sport in general, and just cover that, so that these players can get opportunities elsewhere and the league can grow in general. And I appreciate what you're doing, for the sport. Now that you're in the Premier League and bringing these ideals into the league.
Yeah, for us here in Belize, it's the love of the sport. We don't really make any profits.
Mm.
It's a big expense. It's a big sacrifice that we do, but we do it because we love the game, and because we want to give these young players an opportunity of playing football. It's a beautiful sport, and one day the exposure that we give them, that they can, go out and represent. If any one of my team, anyone from my team goes out and plays somewhere else,
Yeah.
they're representing not only
Yeah.
Belize, but they're also representing Napoles FC, and that's huge for us. So we hope that one day, we reach to that level where one of our young players and talents can be showcased and go play somewhere else. So, but
Yeah.
and thank you very much, for covering the Premier League of Belize and for covering football in Belize. It's much appreciated. I think that the most exposure that we get, it's good for us. It's good for the players. And at the end of the day, what we're doing it for the players.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's our goal, is to be able to grow the league and get everybody, more recognition and things like that. I appreciate people such as yourself coming on here doing this, and letting people know about your team and what your goals are and your vision for these young players and all the players. So I really appreciate your time coming on here and doing that, doing this. And yeah, that was all, really my questions. I do have one last thing. Would you have a message to the fans and supporters, or maybe people watching, outside of Belize even, and to really, what they should be looking out for Napoli's FC? I know you kind of covered it, but you just have a message for the fans.
Yes, of course. The more fans we have, it's better for us. The bigger the exposure for us. Um, if we have 11 guys playing on the pitch, the 12th are the fans, so
Yeah.
we do appreciate their support. We do appreciate the fans that come out and watch us every time we have a game. And internationally, it's televised, and I think that it does help. It gives us that encouragement to continue. It gives the guys, that extra strength whenever they're on the pitch, that we have people watching, and we want to make sure that we have fan base, not only here in Belize or Belmopan, but also internationally. Thank you very much, to all those who tune in and watch our games. We want to say thanks to those who, send us a message. You can always send us a message on our Facebook page, Napoles FC. give us, comments, give us encouragement. And that's what it is, it's a beautiful game, as I said, and we love the game and we play because we want to make sure that we give young guys opportunities. And if there's any player out there, who would want to come and join Napoles FC, we are open to inviting uh, talents from outside. As I said, we want to build around our local talent, but we also want to complement it with other talents from outside. We always need that experience. We always need that higher level of football here, so that our young players can learn. We have a very young team. We are proud to have a very young team, a team that's developing, and a team that have a lot of potential. I can see our team, very quickly being one of those dominant teams here in Belize, and that's our aim. And we're going to work hard to achieve that.
Great. And, I really appreciate you coming on here and, giving your insight, giving your vision for the team, and telling us about more about Napoli's FC and, and the league in general. I really appreciate for your time. Thank you for coming on here. And, best of luck on the season and, all the other seasons after that.
Thank you so very much. Hope we keep in touch,
Yep.
and to all our fans out there, send us a message on Facebook. We really appreciate your support.
All right. Thank you. And we'll stay in touch. Have a good day.
Sure. You too.